Dear Mama, we believe every Black mama matters. And when we say every, we mean every. This episode is dedicated to the mamas giving birth in the belly of the beast of white supremacy, the U.S. prison system, and the birth workers like our guest on this episode, Doula Chauntel Norris, who refused to sit and wait for the world to change, but lives the words of Audre Lorde, "We are the ones we've been waiting for," and began working with the Alabama Prison Birth Project. This is such a powerful episode full of so much knowledge. We decided to go beyond our usual show notes and create an episode guide, which you can find the link to in our show notes on our website. This episode guide includes definitions, a list of organizations already doing the work around this issue that you can support, in addition to other ways that you can help. We appreciate your support, and we ask you to please keep emailing us, keep engaging with us through social media comments, your reviews, and SoundCloud comments. Please keep sharing us, even if it's only with one other person, especially this episode, because we don't want to forget about our sisters who are currently incarcerated. If you're a new listener, welcome to the ride. Invest in us. We have all the links and ways that you can do that in our show notes and on our website. You can invest in us by becoming a DBM patron, buying merch, or giving a one-time donation. Now, let's get free, y'all, and jump into episode 24 of
Dim Black Mamas.
Get up, get up, get up, get up. Get up, get up, get up, get up.
Everyone, welcome back to the ride. I am Crystal Tennille Irby, mother of 4, 3 boys and 1 girl.
And I'm Thea Monnier, mother of 3 girls.
And I'm NeKisha Killings, also mother of 3 girls.
I just have a quick question, NeKisha. How long are you going to just say? I just want to.
I think we should just let that be. That's our
Okay. Oh, gotcha.
Did we already discuss me being in denial?
Okay.
It's probably going to be once the baby's here that I'm like mother of 4 girls.
Yeah.
Okay. So just get your mind
Let's
right.
get through the process.
Okay.
Judge your mama.
What trimester are we in?
We have a special guest with us today that will be joining us for the entire episode. Our special guest, would you like to introduce yourself after our wild introductions?
Yes, I am Chauntel, and I am the mother of 1 girl and 1 boy.
She has like a perfect
She did
combo.
it. Many have tried.
Yeah, she hit it like right on the nail. And Chauntel is a doula who works with women who are incarcerated and pregnant. That will be the focus of our mac and cheese segment today. So we're really excited that she is joining us. And she's decided to be here for the whole episode.
Yes. Good luck with that, Chantel. Good luck.
Bless your heart, girl.
That just shows you how brave and courageous the work she does every day is, that she finds this mild.
In comparison.
Check in with her on the Black Mama say.
I appreciate that.
So as I said, that will be our mac and cheese segment, and the show will flow as usual today. We'll start off with church announcements, flow right into the mac and cheese segment. And I'm really excited about it because I think that whenever we talk about mass incarceration in our community, we leave out the story of Black women, and we definitely rarely talk about Black women who are incarcerated and pregnant. I didn't want us to forget our sisters that are in that current situation. So I'm very, very excited about this topic. And then we will round out the show, as always, with a collection plate cause and our Black Mama Say, which for this episode is Lord's Willin'.
Lord's Willin'.
Got that from my grandma. I was going to say Lord's Willin' and the creek don't rise, but I found out that that is actually a racial slur.
Why do white people do this?
Well, the person who first was known for saying "Laws willing and a creek don't rise," he was either writing to a U.S. senator or the president about a task that he was supposed to do, and so he was saying "Laws willing and a creek don't rise," and he was talking about the indigenous Creek people when he said it.
Not the water.
Where if you dig, you don't even have to dig that deep. You can find white supremacy in everything.
Yeah. Because he capitalized Creek when he wrote it. And so people were like, well, why did he intentionally capitalize Creek?
And why was it so significant to oppress these people that you had to?
Right.
What does that have to do with you doing your task? Was the task to take out the Creek?
I don't know. He was saying that he would get the task done if... Yeah. So
I feel like that says a lot about the Creek and about how about it they were.
Yeah.
Good reframe.
I'm going to go that way.
Good reframe. Yeah. Because, whenever I come across a saying, I have to do a little bit of research to say, okay, who came up with this? And that was the first thing that popped up. So
that was the first thing I was going to say, because my husband's people still say that.
Right. Lord's willing and the creek don't rise. Right. So we just going to stick with Lord's willing. So that will be our show. So we will get started and jump right into the church announcements.
Here we go. This is where it gets bumpy, Chauntel, just so you know.
If you don't think it's been bumpy yet.
If you don't think it's bumpy.
Chauntel, the hate does not bother me because they hated on Jesus and they hate on Beyonce. And so the hate does not bother me.
Notice the equation between the church announcement Crystal's about to do, Jesus and Beyonce.
Okay.
Proceed.
We're ready, girl.
Proceed. We're ready.
Hello, beloveds. Here are this episode's church announcements and prayer list request.
The breath.
I'd like to bring
the breath work.
Y'all put us on your prayer list right now. Stop what you're doing and just pray.
The breath work.
It does. It takes a lot of breath work to channel y'all. So for this episode, I really don't have any church announcements. I just do want to give a shout out to our patrons.
Yes.
Silk the Chakra. I just love her.
I love that name.
She became a patron. We're really excited. Her name is Janae Johnson. So thank you so much.
Yes.
And Miss Caldwell Reeds is also one of our patrons. So thank you so much. Miss Caldwell Reeds has a fantastic Instagram page. She's a teacher. And if you're looking for books for youth or just some inspiration as a teacher, go follow her Instagram page. And Silk the Chakra is just funny as all get out on Instagram. So if you just want to follow her. And also a shout out to Donna Green, who left us a beautiful review. We really, really appreciate the reviews because people don't have to do that. That takes time, that takes effort, that takes energy, no matter how big or small. So we really, really appreciate you doing that, Donna. And welcome to the ride. Welcome to the ride. So thank you so much. Also a shout out to you all, everyone who listens and follows us on Instagram. We did a post that said, tag a Black woman, femme, sex educator, or sexologist. And you all showed up and showed out.
A lot of us out there.
So many out there. So thank you all for tagging people. If you haven't seen the post, go back and take a look at the post. Follow these women, support their work, invest in their work because they are invested in helping us tap into our pleasure, our sexual desires, and joy, and letting go of all the shame around Black women tapping into those things. So just thank you all so much. And that's the level of freedom that we really, really don't talk about. We talk about mental freedom, economic freedom, but we don't talk about physical freedom, which our sexual freedom is also tied to. So that's very important work. So thank you all for showing up for that. Chauntel, do you have any church announcements or prayer list requests?
Yes, Crystal, I do have some church announcements. There's some...
Oh, so excited. Okay.
We have some things coming up in May 11th. There is a March for Moms in Washington, D.C.
Yes.
Yes, that is a Saturday, and I will be speaking and representing the Alabama.
Look at you! You better do it, Chauntel. You better do it.
Thank you. So that is definitely coming up in May. If anyone is able to attend, that would be well appreciated. And then in June 14th and 15th, I will be presenting with a colleague at the United States Breastfeeding Committee Conference.
Amazing.
Yes.
So that will be happening. And then in July, here in Montgomery, Alabama, July 15th through 19th, Baobob Birth, my partner and I will be holding a certified lactation counselor training in Montgomery, Alabama. So if anyone is interested in breastfeeding and being able to support moms in our community, that would be an awesome opportunity.
They need that in the Gump.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, Chauntel is busy. Chauntel is busy. Yeah, that's great.
She is busy and booked, as she should be.
I'm so excited that you're speaking at the March for Moms. I'm so excited about that because sometimes when things like that happen, our voices can be left out. And so I'm so excited that you're speaking there. Okay, so we'll make sure that we amplify those things. And if you can get to the March for Moms on May 11th, do that. And where is the United States Breastfeeding Conference?
It's Maryland.
And we'll have the link for all of those things in our show notes. So support those events and support Chauntel. NeKisha?
Yes, I feel like I do not do enough church announcements about what I'm doing here locally. So if you are pregnant or breastfeeding or supporting someone who is anywhere near the Los Angeles area, please, please, please consider coming out to our First Sundays meetup every month for Cubs Cafe. We meet in Willowbrook, right next to MLK Hospital. We all know where that is. But if not, hit me up and I'll let you know. But it's Cubs Cafe. We also have a Facebook group if you'd like to join and come into community with some local families who are breastfeeding. And all support people are welcome. You can bring your kids. I bring refreshments. Just bring the babies. Bring yourself. Come through. It's very casual. Get all the breastfeeding support you need and meet a new buddy who's in the walk with us, in the journey with us.
And is this is for moms of color?
This is for families of color.
And I will say her refreshments are good. Usually, when people say they have refreshments, I be kind of skeptical because you never know. It's like grapes and carrots, especially in LA.
Whatever.
But her refreshments are good. She has like cupcakes and stuff. So
there'll be no granola. No granola.
By good, you being sugary. Is that what you mean, Krista? You said cupcake.
You can tell who's from LA and who's from the South on this podcast.
Whatever you do.
I do have a mixture of healthy
there you go. Options. Because you got a little LA in it.
Options.
I do. Now.
A little bit. And, one time my mom came and was like, I'm vegan. What you want me to do with this? And I was like, I got you. Next time, from now on, I got you. Okay?
You in Cali,
right. I'm in Cali. I messed up. I forgot my cuties that week. Forgot my
number one question in Cali is, are there any meal preferences or restrictions? If you are doing anything in Cali, you had better ask, are there any dietary restrictions that we should be made aware of?
I won't do that again. I got her. So, yes. So that was my first announcement. Please hit me up about Cubs Cafe. We have a fun time meeting once a month. And then I want to start talking more about this doula training that I'm hosting. Yes, in November, Sista Midwife Productions, Nicole Deggins is coming in from New Orleans, and she'll be here hosting 2 weekends. Here is Los Angeles, hosting 2 weekends of doula training, 6 sessions total.
Wow, that's
all through an African American lens, baby. It is going to be powerful.
Yeah.
Even if you're already doula trained and certified, come through. I guarantee you'll get something new from Nicole Deggins. So we'll drop a link in the show notes. But it's 2 weekends in November, the weekend starting with the 8th and the next starting with the 15th.
So we'll definitely have those in the show notes. So excited about the doula training. Fia Moye?
Well, I'm going to start with the heavy announcement, and then I'm going to move into the not so heavy announcement. So the heavy announcements is definitely I want my city and the family of the hustle to be on the prayer list because it's weird. When you're in Cali, when you're from South LA specifically, you don't really know. It took Crystal to help me realize that we have a culture.
Oh, yeah.
We have a really strong attachment to our city. Those streets mean a lot to us. They really are a big part of our identity, our initiation into adulthood, particularly if you were alive during that 90s gang war time. And so that news you can still really, really feel it. And I think for a lot of us, it triggered old things from that time when it was just a lot of senseless killing, which it's definitely decreased. It just raises up a lot of things. Honestly, I'm just going to say, you can see the white supremacy come up in how we are dealing with it, right? You can see people skeptical about what happened and people judging people who are skeptical about what happened and people saying, well, you should do this with your grief and do this instead and don't light a candle, buy this and don't buy this or do this. There's no ritual around helping us to move through this space. And there's so much distrust, which is valid based on what we've experienced. We live in a hostile country. And so I think, Crystal, you said it best when you said whether it's gang involvement or whether it's government involvement, it still points to white supremacy. And I think at the end of the day, like, that's what it is. At the same time, I felt a tremendous amount of peace when I looked at how much he left us, peace relating to being an artist. So it made me think the importance of not leaving things undone, of living your legacy now, of like leaving work that people can chew on and remember, and looking at all the videos I've created and the webinars, and they may not all seem to go as far as I would like them to go. But the reality is, if I left this earth tomorrow, I'm so well documented that I would feel some peace about that. So just like lifting up my city, lifting up all of us and all the different things that we're going through and the family and the friends and all those things is definitely on my prayer list. On a lighter note, I just want to say that I'm really excited. I finished my sex therapy training, the in-person part. I'm finishing some of the online part. And this conversation about pleasure is really moving forward. I'm moving into more Tantra studies, which, the West has very much simplified as opposed to the Eastern philosophy of Tantra being really about that transformational erotic energy. So I'm going to be doing webinars around that, but also I realized I got to just start from scratch because a lot of Black folks are sliding into my DMs. And I'm like, don't slide in my DMs. Sign up for the webinar, please. I can't coach you through this in the DMs. Yeah. I realize there's definitely a hunger, but there's like this bridge we have to cross.
It's shame. There's still shame.
It's shame. It's fear. It's like a whole bunch of little things. But I'm going to do webinars on each chakra to help get us just to the understanding of what we're talking about and what we're building consciously. So I'll be rolling those out one a month over the next 7 months to get through the 7 major chakras. I may do one on the 8th chakra that people don't really talk too much about, but I'm really excited about it. I'm really connected with people doing great work. And I want to shout out Jiminica, who is partnered with Kink Kit and created a beautiful, amazing tool for sexual assault survivors to use with their partners and to like gradually begin to work on actual physical sexual healing practices. It's amazing. It's available now. We'll be sharing information about it. I think it's genius and long overdue. I think it should be on every college campus and everywhere we could possibly provide it.
Yeah, and we'll put it in our show notes.
Yeah, so that's amazing.
I love the idea of that. Wow.
It's brilliant. It's beautiful too. And
I love using creativity in that way to create access points for healing. I love that. So is that it? Those are all our church announcements?
That was a lot of church announcements.
It was a lot.
So, here we go. I gotta bring it back.
Oh, Lord.
Okay, beloveds.
Please keep these events and dates in mind. And for information as well as inspiration, please follow us on all social media platforms at Dim Black Mamas Podcast. And don't just listen, subscribe where you listen, beloveds.
Okay. Okay.
That's my new outro. That's my new outro. I wanted to surprise y'all with that.
Is that what that was? Okay.
Yes, that
we are
awesome.
surprised.
Been working on that. So
we're going to transition into our mac and cheese segment. As we've said, our focus today, our topic today is Black women giving birth while incarcerated. We have our special guest, Chauntel, here. Chauntel's doula journey began years ago when she was fortunate enough to be able to attend the home birth of one of her very close friends. In all of her entire birth experience, she felt empowered just being able to witness this event and knew immediately she wanted to be a part of facilitating other women being able to have that same empowering birth experience, regardless of how they chose to deliver. She's a native of Birmingham, Alabama, and the mother of 2 wonderful children. She's a DONA-trained labor and postpartum doula, certified lactation counselor, the Moss-trained childbirth educator, and holds a certificate of aromatherapy.
Training, Chauntel. That's a lot of training.
A lot of training.
Yeah.
A lot of school. A lot of school. He serves as a kindred partner with Black Mamas Matter Alliance on the board of directors for the Alabama Breastfeeding Committee and as the Mother's Milk Initiative coordinator for the Alabama Prison Birth Project.
Yes.
She's also the co-founder of Baobob Birth Collective, founded in Birmingham, Alabama in 2014, along with Danica Davis. They chose the name Baobob because the Baobob tree in several places in Africa is known as the tree of life.
And that's the tree that's often used for seeds.
Oh, no, symbols.
Yeah, and it's like, it's all desert all around it, and it's just that one tree.
Yeah.
And that's where they met in Black Panther.
Yeah,
Yes.
under that tree, yeah. It's known by this name because it thrives in arid and dry climates where little else can survive, and it gives life to the people by providing nutritious food, shelter, and even water. She joins us today to discuss her work with the Alabama Prison Birth Project, where she works as a doula, breastfeeding coordinator, and group facilitator.
Yeah,
so welcome, Chauntel.
You are
Thank you.
doing all the things. You are doing all the things.
Oh,
yeah. Let me say, when I met Chauntel at some conference, I don't even think I made it home before I started texting my co-host, like, listen, I met this amazing woman. You won't believe what she does, birth, prisons, and incarcerated. It was just, I couldn't even get my words out. You remember how fascinated I was. Hey, Chauntel, bless her heart. She was just like, this is what I do. And this is, my work. And I was like, but tearing up. It is profound and powerful. We're so excited to have you here. I'm going to shut up.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here too. Thank you so much for having me.
Chauntel, can you tell us, for the audience, about your work?
So I am a birth doula. That's where I started. And so I work with incarcerated populations here at Tutwiler Prison for Women in Alabama. And what I do is I stand with these women as they go through their pregnancy. I'm actually with them when they have their babies. I help hold space for them. And then they're separated from their babies, a lot of times 24 hours afterwards.
24 hours?
Yes, if they've had a vaginal birth, it is 24 hours and 48 hours if they've had a cesarean.
I just got chills. Wow.
Chauntel, are the babies typically sent to family members or completely separated from mom's family?
It just depends on mom's. If she has a family member, then that's awesome. That's always the first place that they look, but mom may not have that kind of support. Family members may be caring for her other children and can't take another baby. And so there is a place, I don't want to say orphanage, but it's similar to that. And so what they do is for those moms at Tutwiler who don't have someone who can care for their babies, they take them in. They're called the Adullam House. And they take those kids and care for them until mom can get them back.
Okay.
Oh, good. That's good to know.
Yeah.
That's one thing. And then, worst case scenario, if they don't have room there, the babies end up a lot of times going to foster care.
Yeah. 24 hours, after you give birth, your hormones haven't even settled yet. And you still have this visceral sort of attachment to your child.
It's hard. It's the hardest thing that I've ever had to do is to help someone through that. And I just always think, if it's this difficult for me, imagine what she went through.
Yeah. Chauntel, how did you get into this work?
So the way that I got into this work, it was really by surprise. When you're supposed to be somewhere doing something, the universe makes a way.
Absolutely.
And it puts you there even if you don't want to be, or you think you don't want to be. I was a new doula, just maybe 6 months. And my brother, his partner, so my sister-in-law, was incarcerated and she was pregnant at the time. So she ended up having her baby at Tutwiler, the same facility that I work at. And so to hear about her experience when she had her baby, no family members are there. They don't notify the family until after she has the baby. It's a security risk. So she is there alone with 2 officers in the room. A lot of times it may be a male and a female. When my niece was born, her mom was shackled to the bed. while she was giving birth. Her leg is shackled to the bed.
And how long ago was this?
My niece is 4.5.
Okay.
So about 4.
So not long ago.
Not long ago.
Shackled to the bed while you're giving birth with 2 police officers standing in the room. As a doula, I know that room is all about energy, and it can really have a profound impact on your body, so much so that your body tightens up.
Absolutely.
You can't really fully dilate, because dilation is part physical, but it's part emotional as well. And so how you're feeling emotionally has an impact on what your body will do. And so
right. They had a really high C-section rate for
I'm sure.
incarcerated moms.
I'm sure.
Based on those things, your body, you can't relax and allow your body to do what it needs to do, because it's a high stress situation.
So I'm wondering how you're seeing Chauntel then, because like here you are, someone standing in the gap, trying to advocate for these women, trying to offer support. How are you viewed by the actual officers, by the staff? What are the barriers there between like how much space and buffer room you can provide between the birthing person and the system around them?
So we've been able to attend births for a year now. And when we first started, it was a lot of the skepticism, well, they're just going to try to get over on you. Don't believe what they tell you, all this kind of thing.
Yeah, very nice.
Don't believe Black women. No matter what you do, don't believe them.
Right.
Exactly. And so it went from that to, I don't even know why she's here. I mean, nobody said this outwardly, but you could just kind of tell in the body language. Right. It went that way until the officers were able to actually see a birth. And after the first birth, an officer came up to me afterwards, a lady, and she said, I didn't believe in you guys up until now. She was like, but now that I see what you're doing, I get it. And one thing that I think our presence as a group is doing is kind of shifting the culture of the prison. It's helping people who work there recognize the women's humanity.
And bring in some
That's
compassion.
huge.
Exactly. They're all there. We all serve different roles. The officers have a different role than I do.
Absolutely.
But we're learning to partner and to work
which
together.
is beautiful. Yeah.
And a lot of the officers, they like having us there because then they can just focus on doing their job.
Yeah, I'm sure they weren't equipped to sit in a berth with someone shackled.
Most of us aren't necessarily equipped to do that and don't do well in those situations. My mom is one of them. She's terrible in a birthing room. She's had 4 children and she is absolutely horrible in a birthing room. She screams when you have a contraction. She tightens up. I was like, well, do you want to be in the room? And she's like, no, when he's all cleaned up and washed off, then I want to be there. I want to ask, how often do you see the women prior to giving birth? How often do you see them?
Okay, so each woman who chooses to participate, which they've all chosen to participate so far, they're assigned individual doulas. We have 5 doulas in our group. They're assigned their individual doula, and they meet at least twice prenatally, just in a one-on-one setting. And then their doula meets them at their birth, and their doula comes back for their separation visit. So like the next morning, their doula will be back. And then she meets them at the prison again within 3 days of her delivery. Then an additional postpartum. So at least 2 prenatals, 2 postpartum visits, and more as needed.
Chauntel, I'd love to know more about how your sister-in-law had this baby.
Yeah.
You weren't allowed to be present for that. So then from there, how did you get into how that happened?
Okay, so she had the baby, and I was living with my mom at the time, and so this baby became a communal baby. All the aunties and we all worked together to help take care of her. And then eventually her mom was released. Maybe she was 6 to 8 months old, and I saw that there was a disconnect. Her mom struggled. There was no bond. The baby was able to go for a few visits, a couple of hours here and there, maybe once a month or something. But, mom is frustrated. She doesn't know what to do. My baby's crying. I can't quiet her. She was kind of at her wit's end, but there was no education throughout all of this, right? Nobody from the prison said, okay, here's support groups. Here's how you calm a baby who really just wants her mom and is inconsolable. There was no support for the mom or for the family getting the baby. And I was like, man, this is pretty bad. Somebody ought to do something about it. Little did I know.
Little did I you were somebody.
Speaking to the universe, man, you got to be careful. You got to be careful.
Yeah.
You're more spiritually in tune than you know.
Evidently.
Yeah.
And so the prison, they had heard about the Minnesota Doula Project. And they say, we're interested in having that here. In 2014 at the prison, there was a lawsuit that happened. And there were a number of violations that were happening inside the prison, abuse of inmates, relationships between officers and women, just all kinds of things going on. After they went to court, part of the judgment was that they had to repair all these. I think there's 40-something points that they had to rectify. So one of those things was having gender responsive and trauma informed care. And so they decided that, perhaps a doula program would help meet some of those requirements. And so they invited the Minnesota doulas down to just talk about what that might look like. And at that meeting, there were local doulas who came, and I heard about the meeting, so I went. And from there, the program was born. I actually lived in Birmingham, which is about 2.5 hours away from the prison. So in the beginning stages, I wasn't actually able to work on it, but I kind of, would check in. Hey, how's it going? A couple of years had passed, and I knew that I still wanted to work on the program, but I didn't see how. I was working full time in Birmingham. I talked to my dad, and I was like, I really want to do doula work full time, but I'm just not quite sure I can quit my job.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad had a house that he had been renting out close to Montgomery. And he said, well, I'll tell you what, my house is vacant. Do you want to just move in? Mm-hmm. And I was like,
everything
what?
just lined up.
Right?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, yeah, I think I can do that,
Mm-hmm.
And so that opportunity came. And so I was able to move closer to the prison. And so I could do this work full time and be available whenever I need to be.
That's beautiful.
The biggest thing I heard out of that is that the prison asked for you all.
Yes.
And I think that's important to know for folks who want to do this work around the country is they need to build relationship, I guess, with the prison or show the value of this work.
Absolutely.
To prisons.
Well, but they asked as a response to
yeah, they had gotten in trouble.
So first, what you got to do is sue your prison.
Oh gosh!
I'm just telling folks, don't do what they don't have.
There's levels to this thing.
There's levels. So first, make sure there's people holding your local prisons accountable to what they're supposed to be providing for people and their care. And then if they're not, make sure there is action that is court ordered. That if it's not on that court order, it doesn't exist. And so that court order starts the movement. And on that court order, there should also be a time frame by which this stuff has to be done. So they may say within the next 2 years or whatever. That's when you'll start getting the ask, because it has to be done or else it's going to be a funding issue.
Yeah.
Because this is the prison industrial complex.
Absolutely.
This is a system at play that's rooted in capitalism. And I know that that's a term that gets thrown around a lot. So I do want to give a working definition of prison industrial complex. And it's from U.S. Prison Culture. And that's a blog. The woman who started it does a lot of work around mass incarceration when it comes to women, gender issues, and also immigrant detention centers and juvenile detention centers. And so they define the prison industrial complex on their blog. And this definition comes from CARA, which is Communities Against Rape and Abuse, defines it as a massive multi-billion-dollar industry that promotes the exponential expansion of prisons, jails, immigrant detention centers, and juvenile detention centers. The prison industrial complex is represented by corporations that profit incarceration, politicians who target people of color so they can appear to be tough on crime, and the media that represents a slanted view of how crime looks in our communities. In order to survive, the prison industrial complex uses propaganda to convince the public how much we need prisons, uses public support to strengthen harmful law and order agendas such as the war on drugs and the war on terrorism, uses these agendas to justify imprisoning disenfranchised people of color, poor people, and people with disabilities, leverages the resulting increasing rate of incarceration for prison-related corporate investment, construction, maintenance, goods, and services, pockets the profit, and uses profit to create more propaganda. And so I just want to be clear that when I heard about you doing this work and when I was reading about this topic and all the information, what I realized is you are in the belly of the beast of white supremacy. Our prison system is the ultimate manifestation.
It's the last legal slavery
of white supremacy. And I say that because I don't want you to take what you do lightly. You know, when something is your calling, sometimes you can't see it like the way that we see it, but to go into that space and be able to transform that space is no easy feat. I mean, you get 2 visits. So what you have to do in those 2 visits has to be exact and exponentially transformational in order for you to get into that birthing room and they fully are invested and trust in you. I just wanted to be clear that there's a whole system at play here. And my question is, knowing that, and I don't know if you know that or not, but I know that you can probably feel something when you go in there. How do you guard yourself, protect yourself, because you're holding space? It's a lot to take on in terms of these women's stories. How do you ground yourself? How do you restore yourself? What energy do you take into the prison with you? What tools do you take into the prison with you?
Right. So it is hard. Some days I come home completely drained just from, like you said, holding space and expending that energy because they need me. You know, like I have to show up every time I go. Like I can't have an off day, you know?
Yeah.
So, but I do have a therapist that I can unload with.
Yes.
And I have a couple of really close girlfriends that are birth workers who I can just unwind, just, you know, let it all out, the ugly, the whatever. And they, you know, they hold space for me. I try to have at least one self-care day a week. And that could be anything. That could be getting a haircut, getting my nails done, just taking a long bubble bath in the middle of the day, a lot of prayer, meditation, just trying to ground myself. I always have different stones in my environment. I wish I could carry them with me when I go in. I can't take anything, but you know, in the car, as soon as I get out. Yes. And I try to eliminate stress in the rest of my life, like delegating things that I can delegate. For me, journaling and talking are my 1 and 2 things that I do to just keep myself sane.
You know, we're going to have to go here. So when I was at my training, my Tantra teacher was like, I consider you all to be the front line of this revolution. And I include in that you all birth work, anything dealing with the sacral chakra, anything dealing with the womb area, anything dealing with that second chakra that houses our right to feel, our right to joy, to pleasure, our right to creativity, anything that impacts that space, particularly in this day and age, it has always been, but even more significantly now, is holy work. And the reason is because in Tantra, you look at the understanding of the masculine and the feminine and that they have to work together, right? And you look at the fact that we're in a masculine dominated society, right? That values consciousness, these illuminating things, which is great. However, none of those things happen without the feminine, which is the manifesting, creative, raw, untamable, transformational power, the actual movement, the actual manifesting power. Nothing houses that more than the lower half of our body. And when you think about what we value the least in this society, it's the lower half of our bodies, right? When you think about where people neglect their care, they're not neglecting their mind. They're constantly running their mind. They're constantly feeling like they have to fill it with something. But what they're neglecting is this lower area. And it's even shamed and told not to look at and not to think about. But when you really think about that on a spiritual level, right? One of the things that talked about was that one of the last places, the raw energy of Kali, of Oya, of Shakti, of that raw feminine energy in Tantra, that power only comes from the feminine. And when I say that, I don't mean women, because we all hold
both.
Right.
We all hold both,
exactly.
But we don't all tap into them.
Always tap into it. Right. So one of the last places where that exists is birth, where there's this raw, wild opening of that energy, this pushing through of that raw energy. And so when I listen to you talk about being in that space, what the officers, once they witness it, what they're seeing is one of the last protected acts of raw feminine energy. Yeah. And once you witness that, it is transformational. Like, you cannot help but to change. But it's also why it's so under attack. And it's because almost every other form of that energy has been shamed or controlled or contained in some capacity, and which is why birth violence is sexual violence. They're all connected. It's all sacral violence, which is violence against the feminine, because when they decided to make this a patriarchal society, they did not understand that the masculine illuminates and reveals, but the feminine creates and births. So there's nothing to reveal if you do not allow the feminine power to exist. When I say that work is holy work, you are literally standing in the space of one of the last places that Shakti, Kali, Oya, feminine energy and power can't be controlled. And they're trying every day to find ways to control it, from the shackles to the 4 C-sections to the medical model, but they still have not figured out. It's like they can't control an earthquake. It's the same thing. They can't control an earthquake. They can't control a hurricane. It's the same energy, right? So you're doing holy, holy work. And this attack on the sacral is not lost on me. I see it very clearly.
And I want to say, well, number one, we're going to have a guide for this episode because we're throwing out a lot of information, a lot of words here. Shakti, Kali, not the singer. So we're going to have a guide that also lists resources and people who are working on this. But I want to say, when you say it's an attack on the sacral, like, this doesn't have to be done this way, right? I'm always interested in, like, how are they doing it other places? Half the countries in the world, once you give birth to your child can stay with you at that facility.
Stays with you.
Yeah.
Stays
like
with
in
you.
one country, they can stay until they're 18. In most countries, it's like until they're like 6 or 7. But the facility houses your children because they recognize the importance, not only to the child, but to the mother. One of the problems with U.S. prisons is that they're built for men. And so it's not just a thing of abuse in U.S. prisons. It is a thing of gender violence and discrimination, because you are housing women in a system that's meant to house men. Yep. And so, Thea, when you say the attack on the sacral, I don't know if people are making that connection, but I do think that there are people who are writing about it that definitely see it. They're just not defining it in a spiritual term, which is really important when you're talking about birth, because birth, like I said, when you're in that room, there's an energy. And whenever you go through doula training, people, the word energy is like it's so much, because it's really, really there. Yeah.
And I want to add that thing with the sacral, just to be clear, that's across the board, because in male prisons, they're not allowed to access animus or feminine energy either. Yeah. So if they were, then this wouldn't even be a conversation, right? Because even their prisons would be designed with nurturing aspect of the feminine there, the compassion that Chauntel was talking about. Even bigger than the gender is the fact that we neglect it across the gender spectrum. We have been taught to completely suppress feminine energy, whether that's the nurturing part of feminine or whether that's the ravishing, raw, wild, creative aspect of it.
You know, one of the things you talked about, or we were all just kind of amazed at the separation and how early it happened.
Yeah.
I met a young woman here recently in LA. She's been going through therapy for many, many, many years, and just unlocked that her underlying issue was precognitive separation from her mother. And so that separation kind of cut off her ability to connect with other humans. 30 years later, she's still dealing with trying to build those connections or syntheses in a way that she can figure out how to relate to other people because of something that happened in a precognitive. She doesn't remember it. Has memories of it that had to be pulled out of her through some hypnosis and other stuff to figure out, where did this begin? And it began as an infant before she could even develop memories of this. So we talk about a generation now of children coming from these mothers who, many of them, be separated from her and never quite given the tools to connect and build a relationship with their mother in a way that is positive and productive for their lives. That's going to impact not only them, but the generations to come after them. So we're talking about,
Yeah. we're talking about the manufacturing of intergenerational trauma. And when you say that, one thing I noticed when I worked with probation youth and with foster youth for years was that I could tell by the report if it was a mother issue or a father issue. Mothers were, the pain was very internalized. It was, I would cut, I would be depressed, I would be suicidal, right? Because mothers are about relationship to myself. And so therefore mothers are about attachment.
Yeah, she was a cutter.
Fathers were externalized, social behaviors, outward, fighting outside or tagging or whatever the case may be. And fathers are about relationship to the world. So therefore, fathers are about abandonment, right? And so when you look at these pieces, even precog, so that's the root chakra that's being developed during that time, literally. The part that says, I have a right to exist.
Yeah.
I have a right to take up space. I am safe and secure. That is the trauma that's happening. And so when you look at Black people, and again, this ties into the idea of gentrification and never wanting us to have a root, right? So, because if we don't have a root, we can't get to the sacral.
Yeah.
We can't get to the joy. We can't get to the pleasure. We can't get to the creativity. If we don't have a root, we can't get to personal power in the third chakra. We can't get to purpose in the sixth chakra. So it's all by design. If we can consistently find ways to attack the root before they can even get to the sacral. So we're talking about infants under attack in utero. So it's really, really a lot deeper. And so when we talk about our intergenerational trauma, that is manufactured.
Yeah.
And it's completely by design.
And highly effective.
So when I hear you say that, especially like the suppression of the sacral chakra across the board, it makes me think a couple of things. So this separation, and Chauntel said sometimes they may go to a family member, sometimes they're not. And I'm thinking as a doula, the importance of skin to skin contact, not only in those first 24 hours, but for days after. When I had my last child, I struggled to breastfeed and I struggled to connect with him, and I was exhausted. I was tired. I was out of my mind. And my husband did most of the skin to skin contact because I was just, every time I touched him, I was trying to breastfeed. My husband would do skin to skin contact because he was like, he needs some skin to skin to feel a calm. Now I see that's a reflection of him accessing the sacral. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be a mother. It has to be somebody tapped into their sacral. My question to Chauntel is, skin to skin contact, is that promoted? How does that happen? Are women shackled, when they have it? And it also makes me think about breastfeeding. So if you're separated 24 to 40 hours after you give birth, what happens to the breast milk? Does the breast milk get to the children? If not, how are the mothers dealing with having milk? Having milk? It also makes me think about, are there any tools or things in place for the family or where these children are going to talk about the importance of physical skin to skin connection? I hope that makes sense.
It does. The first thing, let me clarify. So prior to our program starting, the women were shackled. Now that we have come and crafted some policies, the women are no longer having to be shackled during childbirth. That was like the first change we made before we ever went to a birth. It was like, this has got to stop.
Good.
So as doulas, we always promote skin to skin immediately after birth, but it's always the mother's choice. So some moms, a lot of them have history of trauma and abuse in their background. They're not comfortable doing skin to skin. So that happens. And so we talk about other ways of bonding with your baby besides skin to skin. Make sure you're holding your baby. Make sure you're talking to your baby, seeing your baby. All these other things.
Singing to your baby,
Right.
Make sure they smell you.
Right. That's another thing that we do in our program to help promote the bondedness of mothers and babies is we have groups that crochet and knit baby hats and baby blankets. And so while mom is laboring, she has that blanket against her skin to get her scent on it. And after baby is born, we put that hat on baby for those 24 hours. And then when that separation has to come, the blanket with mom's scent goes with the baby. And that hat with the baby scent goes with the mom. And she's allowed to keep that. It's not a huge thing.
Huge. No, that is huge. If you're not in prison, they're not necessarily doing that kind of thing in a lot of places where they're understanding the importance of scent. Because what if your baby has to go to NICU? Right. Do you know what I'm saying? So so that's big.
The other piece of what you're doing is like when they talk about the trauma that these women have impacted, the cycle just continues to drive me insane. When I watch people intentionally create trauma, when we know the neuroscience shows us that if you want to repair trauma, because trauma is not a permanent condition, if you want to repair trauma, you increase joy, increase joyful activities. You help people figure out what their joy is. You help people tap into their joy. And it literally creates new neural pathways in the brain, because we can't do anything about the pathways that were shut down before, but we can create new ones that allow us to tap into those things. I wish, like, you know, there were more resources and more time, because there needs to be sacral doulas too. Like people who like really work on, so that when you go in to do your work, there's someone who's already priming them to be open in that way. And then afterwards, doing the healing work on that sacral that has been so devastated by the events that happened, and keeping that joy and creative energy moving through that person's body. Even if the baby's not with them, that opening of that womb is an opportunity to almost channel that energy through the rest of your body.
Yeah. I want to let Chauntel finish answering the rest of it.
I know you asked me about breastfeeding. Of course, we promote breastfeeding. We talk about it. So every week we're seeing them. Even if we're not doing a one-on-one appointment, we're still seeing them at our weekly group. And then we do childbirth education. We do some fun stuff. We have coloring sheets. We may do games, that kind of thing. So we're talking about increasing joy, you know, just trying to give them, you know, an hour and a half where they can be away from the prison. In their minds, in our minds, we are somewhere else and we're having a good time. And in our weekly groups, we bring in a meal. We partner with local churches who prepare a meal for them.
Oh, that's so important.
Yes,
that nutrition is so important.
Yes, that is probably the one really good meal that they get out of the week, you know, with a variety of different fruits and vegetables. Sometimes we're all trying new things that we've never had before. So that is a component of our weekly group. But we talk about breastfeeding in there. And we talk about why it's important, because the majority of moms in our group have never breastfed, have never thought about breastfeeding, and don't know why it's a good idea.
Never seen anybody breastfeed.
Right. So this is a completely foreign concept. They are willing and open to learning about it and understanding why this might be a good idea. And then after they have their babies at the hospital, we try to initiate breastfeeding. If mom is willing, we initiate breastfeeding. And then after that, you ask what happens when she goes back. So I'm the Mother's Milk Initiative coordinator. So that means they have the option to pump and get milk to their baby when they come back if they choose to. And about half of our moms choose to do that. What that looks like is we'll do a lactation consult before they ever have the baby, so they know where everything is in the breastfeeding room, in the pumping room there at the prison. They know how to use the pumps, clean their parts, all that good stuff. And then I make sure that they meet with the lactation counselor again at the hospital before they leave, so that they're, you know, like actually hooking up to the pump, making sure that they feel comfortable. And then they come back to the prison and they're able to pump. And once a week, I come in and collect the milk and ship it out to wherever the baby is.
Chauntel, I think you mentioned something that I hadn't quite visualized. A woman goes into labor in the prison, and then she is in labor in her uniform, taking police escort, you know, in a van, I guess, you know, to the hospital.
Usually it's in an ambulance. Usually, like if she's in labor there, it's in an ambulance.
How long does she labor there before she goes?
It depends. It depends on.
First, they got to believe she's in labor.
Right. That is the thing. I've heard of moms being sent back. Oh, your water hasn't broken, so you can't be in labor. Go back. Go lay down.
And some people's water doesn't break until they're 10 centimeters dilated.
Exactly.
Water breaking is like one of the last frontiers. Exactly. But because we do it manually so many times, when somebody's like 4 or 5 centimeters, they think that it's supposed to happen early in labor, when in actuality, it doesn't happen until much later in your labor.
I mean, it's an ongoing conversation that we have with the ladies every week, just talking about ways to be heard. Make sure that other people around you are aware of what's going on. Collectively, talk to the officer. Hey, she's in pain. Hey, she needs help. Hey, you know, that kind of thing. Advocating for yourself, which is very difficult when you're in labor to have to, and frustrating, to have to get somebody to believe you. And it also, it depends on which nurse is on staff. So, there's a wide variety of things.
Are all the pregnant women housed together?
They
at the
are
prison?
at this facility. Different prisons do different things, but they are all in the same dorm.
So, when we're talking about going from 0 to 10 centimeters dilated, it can last a really long time. And, a lot of people do labor at home, but if you're in prison, it's a restrictive environment. So are you able to?
Generally, if you're laboring in prison, you are really concerned about getting to the hospital. And so the whole, I want to move and sing and like that is a lot of the times out the window because they are really concerned about their health and the health of their baby. There have been babies born at the prison, right? And nobody wants that. So a lot of times moms will talk to the doctor about an induction. And in that situation, it's different than doulaing someone who works at home. And, that is a major concern. And so.
But that seems to be your safest option.
Right.
Where you can have the most quote unquote control.
Exactly. And so, that just means, it may be a longer process, but it will start at the hospital where you're safe and your doula will be there with you.
Chauntel, is she in the normal L&D in a normal room or do they have a separate space?
It's a normal room. Okay. They do take security measures. The officers are still there. They take the phone out of the room.
The officers are in the room?
They are.
Is she cuffed?
She's not. No, she's no longer handcuffed during transport or having a baby or when she's transported back.
Great.
But generally inside the room, other than the officers being visibly present, it's pretty much a standard hospital room.
Chauntel, can you give us some numbers? Because I'm thinking about the stats. So one, I'm thinking, do we know numbers on the rates of postpartum? And also any stats you have, because one thing is we already know, Crystal gave us the definition of the prison industrial complex. We also know there's a lot of nonviolent offenders and a lot of people who are innocent, who from the beginning of that prison industrial complex, from the courtroom, were taught to take a plea deal. And to me, that's what this induction sounds like, is another form of having to make a plea deal for yourself because it seems like the best option, right? I think when people think about this, a lot of times the lack of compassion is not just these officers, it's the country at large. Has no compassion for this population. And I want to know if you have any numbers that kind of shed light on how big of an issue this truly really is so that people who are listening actually feel, I want to say, obligated or moved to make sure other people know.
Yeah. And in terms of numbers, Thea mentioned postpartum. I would also like to know, particularly with your program, how has the C-section rate been impacted? The percentage of mothers in prison.
Yeah,
mothers in general. If you have more up-to-date data on what's going on in terms of tracking pregnant women in prison. I know PIPS is doing some work around that. PIPS, which is pregnant in prison stats. But if there's anything up-to-date, any information that you have on that. But also, are they tracking stillborn births, miscarriages, or are they only tracking births?
Before Chauntel answers, I'll say that the PIPS project, the reason why they're so desperately trying to get more people to contribute is because the prisons are reporting the data. We are not disillusioned to think that these numbers are accurate, that we know all the true number of pregnant women, because they only know what the prisons are reporting, and that's likely vastly underreported. And most facilities report nothing at all.
So, like you said, the data that we have came from the prison. We were able to access their data for 3 years prior to us getting involved. But let me start with, there has been a 700% increase in the rate of incarcerated women over the last 30 years. So we talk about mass incarceration, and a lot of people don't break it down into men and women. And so there's been a 700% increase. And then we want to look at some of the statistics behind the women who are there. 90% of women there have suffered physical or sexual trauma. 75% of women who are incarcerated are moms. And 2/3 of those moms have children under 18.
Wow.
Okay, so again, we have to look at this systemically. What did I say about moms and attachment? The ultimate goal is disconnection. Yep. And that disconnection is from each other and from the self. if you attack the feminine, you are attacking mothers, because those, before they were mothers, they were traumatized femme beings. Yeah. You can't look at this and not see the design. And I think like a lot of times we're fighting external systems, but the way they're succeeding is we're not looking at how to repair the internal piece. That's incredible. 75%.
And that when the mother goes to jail, there's a higher chance that the children will end up in foster care, because for a number of reasons, mothers are keepers of culture. And a lot of that is rooted in patriarchy and sexism, but that's what it is. And so there's a higher chance of the child ending up in foster care. Whereas if the father is in prison, a lot of times mothers are primary caregivers. So that child is most of the time in the care of the mother. And there are women making sure that the connection between child and father is maintained, whereas that's not necessarily the case when a woman goes to prison.
So a quarter of the women, 25% of incarcerated women are pregnant or less than a year postpartum.
Yeah.
So in currently pregnant, about 46% of currently incarcerated women are pregnant.
426. Okay.
426. I'm sorry. Yes. There's a lot of things that go into that. You know, we talked about the trauma, but also poverty. Half of the moms that are incarcerated that are parents, half of them are single parents, and 40% of them made less than $600 a month. The median income prior to incarceration, you know, whatever they were making before going to prison was $13,890, you know, and supporting a family. Yeah. And then we want to talk about, why are women going to prison? We talk about the community has a bad idea about, oh, you know, they're troublemakers and they're felons and they deserve to be there. They're murderers and rapists and blah, blah, blah. But when we break down the crimes of incarcerated women, property and drugs is 63%.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that means they A, have an addiction, or B, property crimes. To me, that says I need to feed my children. I might take something.
It's a source of income, and the drugs could be that too.
Exactly. And then 37% have violent crimes, but generally that's against an intimate partner or a domestic situation. A lot of times, you know, abuse. You're being abused by your partner. You fight back. Like, we don't have a whole lot of women who just decide to be serial killers this morning.
Right.
You know, like, that is not the culture.
We don't have a bunch of sociopaths and psychopaths. No, that's not what we're dealing with.
You know, number I call into question, the number I bet is really low is the 4 to 6% are pregnant right now. I bet that's
right, because this is from prisons reporting.
Right.
But then also that does not take into account the county jails and city jails.
Whoa. So this is just prison.
This is just prison we're talking about.
You know, I want to say I thank you for this so much, because in wellness and mental health and all these things, you know, we look at Instagram, we look at all these things, and no knocking people who are out there trying to help people live their best life. But as a person who has worked in the trenches, I call bullshit. I call bullshit on folks out here trying to guru through some shit, and you ain't done the actual work. You have not come to face with those systems. It's so easy for people to talk from outside. I say because we talk about this stuff from a distance, or not at all. In some ways, social media has been positive. In some ways, it's widened that gap where people can only see what they want to see. You can filter what you want to see. They can just ignore the fact that these numbers are so high. And this is where we have to address patriarchy in the Black community, because this is outrage when it comes to men in prison. And this whole time we've been having these conversations about the criminalization of the Black body, we have not thought about women.
That's my criticism of the documentary 13.
So we're even valued less within our own community, valued less and not believed.
Yeah, that not believing part is the part that got me the most. I think that the average Black woman giving birth in the average United States hospital struggles with being heard and being believed.
Yes.
You have to consider how much more you feel this and experience this from the prison, having to meet this very specific criteria in order to be heard and to be believed and to be seen in a space where you are your most vulnerable and you don't have the energy to fight, to be heard.
Chauntel, what are your statistics on C-sections? Do you have a national statistic on C-section in terms of women in prison? And then do you have statistics on your program specifically? Has it changed? Has it had an impact? And like, what is the care afterwards? Because C-section is a very different recovery than a vaginal birth.
Sure. Since we've been attending births for the past year, we see a lower C-section rate. Our C-section rate is at 10%.
Amazing.
Yes. We're having lower preterm births. So we have 4.9% preterm births. And our percentage of low birth weight babies is down. We have a 3% rate of low birth weight babies. We've had one baby that was low birth weight. So I don't have national statistics on the C-section rate, but I do know that at our facility, for the 3 years prior to us coming in, it varied from 35% to 1 year it was 61%.
Ooh.
You couple that with planned cesareans, which since we've been working, we kind of see that number coming down.
Okay. But I can understand a planned cesarean if I'm in prison.
Right.
Even if a mother has all the information.
That's the way for her to have some control. Well.
Yes. Yes.
Right. Yes. And then I've also heard moms say they would rather have a cesarean because they get 48 hours with their baby.
Look at that. Look at that compromise. What does wound care post-C-section look like in a prison, though?
There is an infirmary, and the moms, when they come back, they're processed through the infirmary. They spend a couple of days in the infirmary. They can opt out of that. A lot of times they would rather go back to the dorm to be around other pregnant moms and postpartum moms, their peers. But there's not a whole lot of wound care per se that happens. They're not allowed to have a lot of supplies in their dorm. So like gauze and all those kind of things are, they could be contraband. So they're not allowed to have them.
They certainly don't get the narcotics that a lot of
absolutely not
outside women get.
I've heard them say, that they stock up and buy Tylenol from the canteen so that they'll have it when they're coming back. When they know they're going to have a baby. As far as wound care, I've seen a mom pack her wound with a t-shirt.
You know
what? She didn't have any gauze or using pads, sanitary napkins is the very bare minimum.
I guess I have two questions. What are some of the challenges that you see those mothers facing? What gives you hope? And what can we do?
So some of the challenges, depression is real. You've just been separated from your brand new baby. You don't know when you might see them again, if you'll be able to see them again. Some moms don't. Keeping them engaged, making sure that they're meeting with their doula postpartum, making sure that they're coming to group. The ladies are very good since they're all in the same dorm up to 6 months postpartum. They are a really good peer support system for each other. And they let us know if a mom is struggling. They'll let us know, hey, she's having a hard time. Can she meet with her doula? Or she probably needs to go to mental health. Can you guys do an evaluation? That's the biggest struggle, I think, is just seeing a mom have to be separated from her baby and everything that creates. And just trying to keep them buoyed up. Everybody in the room understands where they are coming from, where they have been, and where they are going. And we're all sympathetic. Everybody there is going through something really tough. And we just try to support each other. No judgment, just loving on each other, and creating that space for that.
Yeah.
We talked about earlier the effects on mothers and babies. That is the whole purpose of our program, is to try to keep mothers and babies bonded and close to each other. So not you just push out this baby and never think about this baby again, because that has kind of been what has been happening. A group has donated audiobooks, so mom can read a book to her baby.
And then the baby can have the book and and they can hear the mom's voice.
And then we also, the doulas take pictures at the birth. So we take pictures when the doula meets the mom at the prison for her first postpartum visit. She can bring 5 pictures printed out from the birth. And we save the rest of those pictures indefinitely. So whenever mom gets out, she can contact us and get all of her birth pictures. So that's something we do to try to promote the bonding. We always have coloring sheets at group that moms can send to their children. And then there's a service. It's called Aid to Inmate Mothers. It's a local group. But what they do is, if mom's family doesn't have the resources for children to come visit, they facilitate that. So they just get church fans. And so once a month, they have a 3-hour visit, and it's in a separate part of the prison. They try to have games and snacks and stuff like that, just making it not a scary visit, fun for the kids, fun for the moms. They take pictures, all that good stuff. So these are all things that we try to do to keep babies and moms bonded. So with my sister-in-law, that was not the case. This was a few years back, and there was nothing. Like, if you can drive the baby there on a visitation day, then great. But there was no discussion of why this is important, how this helps mom, and how this helps baby, why it's beneficial. And I've never shared this publicly, but in the case of my sister-in-law, this is a warning. It is heavy. When she got out, the bonding didn't happen. Even though this is my child, there was no instantaneous bonding that happened. Mom struggled a lot. My brother ended up, being the primary caretaker, and mom, she ended up falling back on substance abuse issues. And ultimately, mom ended up committing suicide. That was the ultimate end result. And so I always keep that in mind as I'm interacting with moms. If you feel like nobody else in this world supports you, know there's something good.
Yes, absolutely. All you have is your moment.
Right.
It's amazing what a moment of pure, authentic love can do for a person.
Right.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Thank you for sharing that. And I love that your work is not rooted in, because sometimes I think with Black maternal health, we can get caught up in the trauma of it all. But even though that's a traumatic story, your work is rooted in love.
Crystal asked, what gives you hope? I really want to hear what you have to say there.
What gives me hope? Working with these moms every day and seeing what they're capable of when they're presented with a problem, and they try to come up with their own solutions, and they can talk their way through it and say, hey, you know what? We don't like this rule. What can we do about it?
Right.
Okay, let's get together. Yeah. Let's write a letter. Let's go through the steps, whatever the next step may be. But collectively, they can figure it out. Like, they don't need me to tell them, well, this is what you ought to be doing. It's me being able to listen to them, and they can figure it out. That's the thing. If we give them the space to figure out their own stuff, they can do it. And that's what gives me hope and makes me hopeful.
Chauntel, what are some things that people can do, some takeaways that people who aren't directly involved can do, can support? We're going to list the organizations that they can definitely support, highlight, and amplify. But what are some other things that you would suggest?
It's limitless the things that you can do in your own community, whether it's reaching out to your own local jail, the city jail, county jail. My information is going to be available, donating, whether it's goods or, if you crochet and want to send a hat and a blanket, that would be awesome. If you have funds, that can allow us to continue to attend these births, that would be awesome. Perhaps identifying who may already be doing the work in your community and reaching out to them. A lot of times people want to volunteer, but there are security issues. We don't want to have a transient staff, somebody who's always different every week, because a main part of this work is building and developing relationships. Right. So we don't offer the option of having people come in and volunteer, but there's always, we always have fundraisers going on. And so people can contribute in that way. So I would say reach out locally, find out who your doulas are locally, your birth workers, because they probably have their ear to the street and know what's going on. And if you're not sure of what's going on in your area, you can always reach out to me, and I can try to help connect you with what I know is going on, because a lot of times people reach out to me. And eventually, within the next year or so, the Alabama Prison Project will actually be merging with the Minnesota Prison Project, and we'll be forming a nonprofit and for-profit hybrid. And so part of our work is going to be
exciting.
Thank you. We're excited about it. But part of our work is going to be developing a curriculum, developing doula trainings for prison doulas, because it is different, and offering these trainings to whoever is interested in building their own program.
And I want to challenge our listeners to find out what the laws are in your state. state, because this is a federal issue and a state issue. So you have state prisons and you have federal prisons, but find out what the laws are in your state when it comes to women who are incarcerated and pregnant. And we have so many people who are always talking about what's going on in the world politically and voting and the importance of voting and all that. And I really, really think that is important. But where the rubber meets the road is policy. And so if you're not a person who can volunteer with this program or knit or whatever, but you're a political junkie, look into the policies that your state has and hold your elected officials accountable when it comes to that policy. We have elections coming up. One of the questions that you should ask is, what's your stance on women who are incarcerated and pregnant? And making sure that even though it may be against the law to shackle them, well, not in South Carolina, but if it's against the law in your state, what are the policies and procedures that you have in place to ensure that it's still not happening? So we can take who we already are and apply it in other ways instead of just having debates on social media about 45. There's actual other stuff that we can do and look into. No one is coming to save us, as Audre Lorde says. We are the ones we've been waiting for.
That's it.
Yeah.
We're it.
But thank you. Yeah, that was great mac and cheese. That was great mac. It was heavy, y'all. It was heavy.
It was.
But we needed it.
Filling.
We needed it. So now we're going to transition into our collection plate cause. Collection plate causes are causes, organizations, initiatives, art projects we feel deserve to be amplified and are worthy of your time, attention, and yes, sometimes money. If you can't donate, we ask that you pass the collection plate by amplifying the information about our collection plate cause on social media using the hashtag collection plate cause. And for this episode, our collection cause is Black Mama Matters Alliance. It is a Black women-led cross-sectorial alliance that centers Black mamas to advocate, drive research, build power, and shift culture for Black maternal health, rights, and justice. BMMA envisions a world where Black mamas have the rights, respect, and resources to thrive before, during, and after pregnancy. BMMA is composed of existing organizations and individuals whose work is deeply rooted in reproductive justice, birth justice, and the human rights framework. The Alliance operates as a functioning body through engaged and active partners working nationally with a local scope with the following goals in mind: change policy, cultivate research, advance care for Black mamas, and shift culture. And we are a kindred partner of Black Mama Matters Alliance, and they are also the founders of Black Maternal Health Week. Chauntel is also a kindred partner with Black Mama Matters Alliance. So you can donate through the website, and if you can't donate, please pass the collection plate by amplifying Black Mama Matters Alliance on social media. You can find them on Twitter at BLK Mamas Matter, on IG at Black Mamas Matter, and on Facebook at Black Mamas Matter. And if you have a collection plate cause in mind that you feel needs to be amplified, please feel free to send us the information through direct message or by email at themblackmamas@gmail.com. We're specifically looking at things that focus on Black women and dismantling systemic and institutional oppression.
All right. Thank you, Crystal. Now it's time for our final segment, which is Black Mama Say, where we put our own twist or share how common sayings that Black mamas have said from then to now impact us or what they make us think of. So this week's Black Mama Say is, if the Lord's willing. So what you got?
If the Lord's willing, I want to live to see the day that I can vote for Stacey Abrams for president. I am exhausted voting for white men. I got a little bit more space for white women, like a smidge more space for white. The thought of my choices being two white men for the presidential election makes me have a brain freeze. So Lord's willing, I want to see the day that I am able to go to the ballot box and vote for Stacey Abrams as president. And if I am 105 years old, I will go knock on doors. I will have my children willing me to doors I will make phone calls or whatever. I want to see this woman be president in my lifetime, Lord's willing. She's so absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
she oozes compassion, but yet she's sure and frank and solid in her word. Like I need to see the day. Lord's willing. I need to see the day.
Okay.
That's my Lord's willing.
Chauntel, our guest.
Okay. I'd say if the Lord's willing, we are going to stop incarcerating pregnant women.
Oh,
yes.
Amen. Amen.
Yes.
Amen. Hallelujah. Amen. Amen. I love that.
Straight to the point. That was so deep and nice. I'm going to have to bring the petty.
Go ahead. A little levity here.
I'm going to have to bring the petty.
All right.
Oh my God.
If the Lord's willing.
Oh my God.
Maxine Waters will unravel Trump's tax returns. A dead Russian informant will roll out. Only if the Lord is willing will Vladimir literally fall out of the
tax returns
and force the American public to consider the fact that this man may not be suitable for re-election.
She's the only person who could do it.
Keep our fingers crossed for a dead Russian informant. That's what we need. That's what we need to bring it home. It's what we need.
If he's dead, how is he going to give us the information?
But he's in the tax return. How did he get there? This is what we have to ask ourselves.
He's going to make me roll out.
I don't know how to follow that. I don't
know why you don't let her go last. You always let her go before you. You should make her go last. You should always make her go last.
I have no, Lord's willing, Dim Black Mamas will remain on the air. We will not get yanked off the air.
They can't yank us off. We're a podcast. They can't yank us off.
They got ways.
They'll figure
They got ways, man. She hoping for Russian spies to roll out of tax returns. I'm just saying, the Lord's willing. We're going to still be around.
We'll be around for another episode. Literally, our IG won't be posting anymore. If y'all see us disappear, though, you know what happened.
What Nipsey say? Y'all better ride for us. What Nipsey say? Y'all better ride for us.
Y'all better ride for us.
Can't find them Black Mamas? Y'all better ride.
I'm just imagining congressional interns carrying in these tax returns, and they arrive, and it's like, why are they in a coffin?
Because there is a Russian informant attached to the tax return.
Follow us on Facebook.
NeKisha shutting it down.
That's it. I'm shutting it down. They're not going to let this one get out to the people. The people need to hear all that Chauntel said, so I'm going to just wrap it up.
Oh, gosh.
You're right.
Too much good stuff in this episode.
Too much.
Chauntel, do you have any social media that you'd like to let the people know about? Where can they find you and your work?
Absolutely. I am on social media. We have a webpage, www.baobobbirth.com.
Yes.
We have a Facebook page, which is the same. IG is Baobob Birth.
Spell that for us?
I'm sorry. It's B as in boy, AOB as in boy again, AB birth.com. So that's Baobob. And that's on also the Alabama Prison Birth Project has a Facebook page, and on IG it's Prison Birth.
Fantastic. All right, now follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Dim Black Mamas, and support our partner, Hilly and Mac Apothecary.
And don't forget to check out our website at www.dimblackmamas.com. You can also send us your thoughts about the show, show us some love, and ask us some questions at dimblackmamas@gmail.com.
And if anybody finds these episodes saved on my computer after we have
lost tapes, lost episodes.
If I find the lost tapes, send them to Roland Martin.
It's true. Y'all better write for us. Y'all better ride for us.
I'm too pregnant to run, y'all. I'm too pregnant to live live off the grid.
To live off
I
the
can't.
grid, off the land.
Can't. Chauntel gonna have to come be with me, girl. Come help.
Chauntel, like, that was not me on that episode. I don't know.
I don't know what they're talking about.
I don't know what they're talking about. That was not me. So please continue to review us, DM us, and email us. We really, really appreciate your DMs and emails about how the show or how an episode is impacting you. We don't take that information lightly. It really informs and drives our content because we're all about engagement and connection. So please keep those things coming because that really inspires us. So that's all we got.
Yes.
We ain't got no more. Thank
That's
you
it,
so
y'all.
much, Chauntel, for rocking with us today.
Yes, thank you so much.
Really, really, really appreciate it. We really appreciate it. Root yourself in freedom, abundance, and joy. All right, that's all we got.